Welcome, and let me introduce you to my latest piece of, almost said the F word, furniture. That lifeless, soulless word that lacks any form of humanity, the cold, square, utilitarian type box. This defies description and can't be put into a category. It cannot be put into a box, although I suspect the minimalists would have a few choice words to describe it. This was commissioned by one of my clients in Scotland, and they came to me with a very loose brief. They said, create something original that hasn't been made before, a real showpiece, and embody a snake into the design. They have a profound love of the natural world and animals, as I do, and when they said, put a snake into the design, that was like lighting the blue touch paper for me, because snakes have the most profound movement. They're the most perfect subject matter. The movement is absolutely to die for. I mean, literally to die for. And the snake is a creature that's been vilified and demonized throughout history, and I love the idea of taking something with a lowly status and putting it into a really important piece of work and having that creature responsible for the movement within the piece. None of the curves, none of the movement is random. It is all carefully considered about the movement of the snake. The snake starts on either side and move up towards the centre and meet, and at that moment, that frenetic energy of wanting to come together creates a movement within the piece of work. This type of design has quite a playful, almost frivolous nature, but it belies the deep-seated technical difficulties associated with its making. It is so incredibly difficult because it's not only a case of coming up with free-flowing, naturally occurring asymmetric lines, it's a case of making the mechanics of the thing actually work, and that's a really, really difficult part. But it does work. It works effortlessly. The doors open beautifully on handmade wooden hinges. And I think, despite all the effort and the time it's taken to create this, it's worth every moment of that time to create something so original. Thousands of years ago, the ancients realised that straight lines in design simply didn't work. They looked feeble, and that's because they don't occur in nature. So if you look at some of the most iconic buildings, for example, the Parthenon on the Acropolis, this perfectly ordered classical building doesn't have any straight lines. All the columns are curved. The outer columns are curved more than the inner columns because of the reflection of light. Even the floor is completely free of straight lines. It has a gentle camber in all directions because they understood that the effort required to create curvature within design is worth the effort because it works on an aesthetic level. Whereas in the 20th and 21st century, designers have gone more and more for square, linear, straight lines, simply for ease of mass production because the techniques lend themselves to mass production, and that's why it's proliferated. But I think it's worth taking the effort in creating something with an organic feel because as soft, organic creatures, we can actually harmonise and gel with that so much more so than square boxes that look more at home in a dentist's surgery. This is made to the nth degree, not only with regards to the aesthetic, but also the constructional details. It really is built like a tank. So I think what we'll do is move in a little closer and have a look at some of the finer points. So let's check out the detail. They say the devil's in the detail, so let's move in and take a closer look at some of the finer points. Okay, what we have there in the centre, we have this design, or this style of carving is known as direct carving, or the term I prefer to use is intuitive carving, where the carving gouge is allowed to wander freely through the wood, slowly developing and finding intuitive shapes which are incredibly natural. This is a totally freeing process and really enjoyable. The handles are carved into the wood, allowing the user intimate contact, which is a really beautiful feeling. As we move across, we'll take a look at the door panel. You will see that the door panel is carved in the same way as the door fronts, picking up this detail of intuitive carving. I much prefer this to the alternative, which would be a flat relief, which it would almost look as if the snake was stuck on. Of course, everything's carved from the solid, nothing is stuck on, but this type of direct carving adds to the intensity of the feeling that it is carved from the solid. You can see there handmade wooden hinges, of course, free of any built-in obsolescence. They work beautifully and effortlessly for a lifetime and beyond. As we climb up, we've got a heavy oak top. This wood is English oak. And when I say English, I don't want to sound particularly proud or as if I'm a member of the BNP. The term English is used for oak which comes from all over the UK. Because it grows in such a cold, inhospitable climate, it has plenty of natural features, gnarliness, ingrown bark, tannin, and plenty of knots. It's the king of all oaks. It's well renowned. Many, many pieces of furniture made from oak these days are made with imported crap, which is force grown and does not have these kind of characteristics. So it's a bit of a misnomer when people refer to things as oak. They're not actually oak. It's more pseudo oak or oak type, and really shouldn't be confused with the real thing. So as we climb up the cabinet, the snake contorting the cabinet as it goes, we reach the top right hand corner, the snake disappears and reappears on the carved frieze, adding to the movement and drama of the piece of work. Now here's the important bit. This is the central point of the narrative where the snakes actually meet. We're moving a bit closer. I always like to put a human touch into things and include human emotion. And there we can see the two snakes meeting. The male on the right, female on the left. And of course the female somewhat recoiling from the male's advances. Yeah, been there, done that. And as we move across, we'll see the snake disappearing again through the right-hand corner of the frieze and reappearing in the top left-hand section of the door. People quite often say to me, why don't you use machinery? Surely this sort of work can be made on a machine. Well, it can't. This is a totally different process. This is all made intuitively, and it wouldn't be possible to get these kind of results on a machine. When something's made by hand, it contains a humanity that just isn't possible with its machined equivalent. The fact is, all the little bits of carving by hand, all the hand scraping, all the hand working, produces unlevel surfaces and surfaces which do not look sanitised and clinical. And so when all those little idiosyncrasies add together to the sum total, it's then viewed on a subliminal level, and so the viewer doesn't actually understand why it looks the way it does, but it just looks that way because the information is being received on an intuitive level, or rather on a subliminal level, but it's because of all the work that's done by hand that gives that feeling which wouldn't be possible on a machine. And there you go, the snake dresser.